Let me start by thanking the Kahila community and Bend the Arc. Thank you very much for organizing these and for all of you who come, because I know many of you have come from a number of organizations and you live all throughout the East Bay. And I'm going to start positive. Your activism and your work make a difference. And they make a difference locally. And I'm going to tell you two examples. You know, when Ali and I were first talking about the details of the rapid response, and Ali, lawyers do good things, right? So it's good. I mean, you've helped try to figure out, immigration law, where do we need to focus? So when we talked about it, was if we're going to get this passed and we're going to get this implemented, we need county-wide community support. That's why you're so important. We don't do this alone. The reason that the Board of Supervisors eventually voted unanimously, and that's the last thing we thought was going to happen, right, Ali, was because some of you and allies and advocates from all over Contra Costa talked to their supervisors or showed up at our meetings and really put a face on this issue, right? And I mean, we got to hear from some families. While the Department of Justice is trying to depersonalize and make all this faceless, there's real people behind these stories. And I appreciate that you hold up the families and talk about those. So I want to encourage you to continue this level of activism because it does really make a difference. And another example is, about a year or two ago, actually 2 years ago, when we approved expansion of health care for people in our county regardless of immigration status, right? That means even people who are undocumented. It was because of a countywide coalition of people, including some of you and others, who said, this is not only the right moral thing to do, this is going to improve everybody's public health. We know that, right? Sickness and illness doesn't stop at what your immigration status is, and we're all healthier when we are all healthier. And it's the right investment of our tax dollars because people getting preventative health care instead of showing up at an emergency room is better and more cost effective. So the coalition of advocates, again, came to meetings. And in both those cases, I'm really proud that we provide legal and medical assistance to people regardless of immigration status. And thank you for your part of that. That's really what my message is. And this facility, and specifically the contract with the Department of Justice, the reason I've publicly called for the Sheriff's Office to end its contract with the Department of Justice is because we pay a price for that. While the Sheriff's Department gets some revenue out of it, the price we pay offsets that. It's the trust of families around our county. They lose trust in local government and local law enforcement. In fact, we heard from an executive director of a mental health organization, a nonprofit that provides mental health services to young children, who said, we're even seeing families cancel appointments for very important mental health services because of fear or mistrust or anxiety. We want to be welcoming. And I really want to recognize the great people in our county health and social service departments who are so welcoming in all their programs to all communities. We want folks coming in and getting the help and services they need. And contracts like this put a wall up and divide our community so that trust is lost. In fact, I don't know how many of you remember the former police chief of Richmond, Chris Magnus. Great guy. He went on to become the police chief of Tucson. Well, just last week, he penned an op-ed in the New York Times that's really about this issue that the Department of Justice and Trump's policies on immigration are making our cities more dangerous. So pick that up and read it. It's a really good, coming from a police chief of a major city. So just a final brief update. At our Public Protection Committee meeting that we had this week, we wanted to get updates to ensure that the policies of the Sheriff's Department and the Probation Department comply with SB 54, the state sanctuary policies. The good news, Asian Law Caucus has been working with our probation department in a very partnered way, so that those policies will be on January 1 in compliance with SB 54. That's good news. Yes, let's give to the probation department. Unfortunately, and I said at this meeting, I thought we were very disappointed, nobody from the Sheriff's Office came to the Public Protection Committee meeting. So we were not able to see where his internal draft stood. Although that draft has to be out by the end of this month of his policies. We don't get to make his policies, he does that. But we will publicly see them when they are out by January 1, and we will fight to ensure that they comply with SB 54. Now, we also did get a letter from the Department of Justice. Contra Costa was one of about 30 agencies from around the country that received a letter saying that, sort of implying that some of our policies may not comply with what they want, and that they would pull back funding. You know, counties and cities across this country get millions of dollars in Department of Justice grants. Some of them have nothing to do with law enforcement. Some deal with health and social services. So we're responding back that we believe, you know, complying with SB 54 complies. So, and feel free to come to any of the meetings to get more updates. So I just will close by saying thank you again for being out here. Thank you for continuing to raise the visibility of this issue, because it is making a difference. And we've got a lot more battles to fight, and I think the optimism we can have is at the local level and winning our battles locally, we'll see what happens in mid-year elections next year. I think it's with your activism across this country, we're going to see a change. So thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Gioia.